Hey everybody! Welcome to another episode of
How Did We Get Here?
I'm Trina.
And I'm Terrio.
And we will be coming to you and giving you the lowdown of marriage and the ups and downs and basically our take on how we got here.
Yeah, and how we going? The things that we're gonna be talking about today is communication in a relationship,
yes,
marriage or whatever. Communication is important. Communication is key. It's how you two, whoever you may be, how y'all can get a true understanding of each other and break those barriers, especially with people first time talking and trying to get to know somebody. So communication is key.
Yes, I agree 100%.
And also, when it comes to communication, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. The things that you may have good intentions or have the right things that you want to say to the person, and you may not be wrong, but it's how it comes out and how it's interpreted. It may hurt someone's feelings, and you may not have a clear understanding of what they're trying to communicate to you.
Right. How you say it is very important. You don't want to be aggressive. You don't want to be too passive. You just have to say how you feel. Consider other person's feelings while you're saying that. And just make sure you are able to articulate the feelings and the emotions that you're going through at the time without necessarily blaming someone else, but just expressing how you feel. So you don't want to say, like, in the midst of an argument or a conversation, you don't want to say, well, I'm sick of you doing this and I'm sick of you doing that. What you want to say is, I feel this way when this happens, or it affects me this way when that happens, so the other person doesn't feel attacked.
And even coming from a man's point of view, I know it's hard for a lot of men to express their feelings towards their mate or whoever he or she may be. I ain't judging, but I'm saying, like, when you expressing your feelings, you got to be straight to the point. You can't beat around the bush. Not saying being rude or nasty or anything. Like we said, it's all in what you say and how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are important, and communicating, that's what comes with communicating effectively, I guess you can say that.
Right. So there are different ways to communicate. You have verbal, which is, of course, speaking, letting the person know how you feel. And then you also have nonverbal, which can be body posture, it can be facial expressions, it can be all sorts of things. I know initially when we were getting to know each other, you would like to read into a lot of my facial expressions.
Oh man.
I'm on the ministry for working on fixing my facial expressions, because sometimes I don't need to say anything, but it shows on my face. Nonverbal. Right.
You could tell something is wrong. But I mean, that also is a good thing, because when you see your partner and you see something is bothering them, it's best for you to, like, depending on if they tell you, like, just give me a minute, give me time, give me space. Unless they say that, you have to be like, what's wrong? What's bothering you? Like, talk to me so we can get a clear understanding of each other, and so we can fix the situation.
And that's also very important too. You don't want to assume. Just like he said, you have to ask that person. So you don't want to assume just because someone may have a upset face or a puzzled face doesn't necessarily mean that's how they feel. That could be just a shield that they put up to cover up something else on how they feel. So you can't assume. You just want to make sure that you always ask, communicate, and you'll get a better understanding of your mate that way. What do you think is the best way to communicate as far as verbal or nonverbal?
Even nonverbal, being an active listener. Listen to your partner. listen to what they are saying, even if it's nonverbal. Even if you're not expressing, hold on, am I saying it correctly? Being an active listener. So basically, when they're expressing their feelings, like she said, I feel this way when you do this, or it makes me feel a certain way when you do that or this, or when you say this or that. Listen to what they are saying. Don't just be on the defense, because a lot of people are always on the defense. Like,
right.
that's what our thing was in the beginning of our marriage. We would both be on defensive side. Like, we would be like, oh, well, you said this, or well, you said that, instead of us being active listeners when it's coming to the nonverbal part. And when you're on the other end and that your spouse, something that you did upset your spouse, even though you may think that it's not a big deal, it's a big deal to them. So you have to be able to listen effectively to understand where they're coming from, so you can fix those issues.
So in a nutshell, you want to listen, not listen to respond.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when you're in the heat of an argument or thinking about something as the other person is speaking, you're not actively listening. What you need to do is put your feelings and your thoughts on pause and actually listen to everything that the other person is saying. Mm-hmm. And not listen to respond like, okay, well, I'm about to say this. Oh, this is something else I can store up in my head because he mentioned this or she mentioned that. You don't want to do that. You want to actively listen, put your feelings on pause, and then once that other person has done reflecting over how they feel, then you can go back and say, okay, well, I appreciate where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. Address everything that other person said. And then once that issue is addressed, then you, the active listener, can go back and say, okay, well, I feel this way or I feel that way when you say this or when you didn't do that. I think that's the best way of communicating, is to actively listen. And because that other person will also feel that you're engaged in the conversation, that you're paying attention to what they're saying, that it's not just going in one ear and not the other.
Yeah. And what was I about to say? Also, have empathy for certain people's feelings, because sometimes, even though they may say something that you don't like you don't like the conversation, you don't like the whole issue of what happened, you still need to have empathy for each other, and for your spouse. It's all about understanding. It's seeing that person in their vulnerable state, expressing all of their emotions and feelings towards you, and you just got to take it into accountability, regardless of how you feel, and not saying that your feelings aren't valid or they're not, wanted or needed, but you also have to communicate. Like, that is the whole purpose of what we're talking about, communication.
Right. So in regards to empathy, it's like putting yourself in that other person's shoes. Well, I didn't think of it that way, or I didn't see it that way. Putting yourself in their shoes and say, okay, well, I can understand where you're coming from in that sense, because I didn't explore that in my mind as far as how you may feel about that or how you reacted to that. That's, to me, is what empathy is all about. Putting yourself in that other person's shoes to understand where they're coming from, how they're feeling, and to possibly how to resolve an issue or a situation in the future.
Now, just to be real with y'all, now, when y'all get to the point where y'all really, really can't, communicate effectively, whether if it's verbal, nonverbal, listening, or even having empathy, please seek counseling. Some things, sometimes some couples can work it out for themselves. Others really do need counseling. Those are the things that will help grow their marriage, or their relationship. Or if you're fiance, or y'all engaged to be married, and y'all still having rough patches, you still should seek counseling.
Right. Premarital counseling, counseling once married. It's all for the betterment of the relationship, to get a perspective on each other's point of views, and to also know how to resolve certain issues. Like, they give you skills to equip yourself when certain issues may arise. So I recommend counseling 100%. Hello, this is Trina from How Did We Get Here podcast. We are featuring a new segment called Black Business Spotlight, where we feature Black business owners to include accessories, clothing, candles, anything that Black businesses has to offer. Today, I am featuring a shirt by S27 Designs, and it states, "My confidence drips from my lips and shakes the ground in which I walk." This shirt is very well made. It's very soft. It fits great. And Ashley, who is the owner of S27 Designs, I contacted her and I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I feature your shirt on our Black Business Spotlight?" And she was more than accepting. She is very available and communicates well. And you guys hit her up for her shirt. Please follow Ashley Bland at Facebook at S27 Designs. I'm very satisfied with my confidence shirt, and I agree 100% with the confidence that's listed on my shirt. I have that. So if you have any thing that you would like for us to feature during our Black Business Spotlight, please send an email to howdidwegethere21@gmail.com, and we will try to feature your product on our segment. Again, send it to howdidwegethere21@gmail.com, and we will try to feature it on our segment entitled Black Business Spotlight. Peace.
Things are very, very important when it came to our marriage, and how we communicate effectively. And also another thing, when things are just getting rough and the communication is just unbearable, you can't stand the words that they are saying, whether they smack their lips, huff and puff, just walk away. It's better to gather yourself, gather your emotion, gather your thoughts, gather all your feelings, and just walk away. That'd be the best thing. And like, we both known or seen people go through physical arguments, just because of simple disagreements, and it could have been easily solved just by walking away.
Right. So before you get to that point, if you feel yourself getting more angry, or
your spouse getting in your face,
right, feeling like you can't control yourself, that's just to the point to be like, you know what?
It's best to walk away.
And please, ladies and men, I'm not sure who does what, but do not try to stop the other person from leaving. They are leaving for a reason. Let them go. They will return. They will return.
When would they return? That's the question. But I mean, they will return.
But all that's going to do is escalate the situation, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
And but another thing, that we talk about, because this whole episode here is about communication. Communication is key. Is expressing your love to your loved one. Telling them how good they look, no matter the outfit. Just the simple things of telling that person, you love them. They look good today. They're beautiful. You thank God for them being in your life. You thank them for, regardless of seeing through your faults, and you're still here. Those words of affirmation sometimes, build and create growth within the relationship or the marriage. And those things are important. I'm a guy that loves, well, a lot of guys love words of affirmation. They want to be told, like, yeah, baby, like, you doing your thing. That gives a man encouragement. Just like you would want, any female would want their man to be like, dang, baby, you look good in that outfit. Make her feel appreciated, make her feel loved, make her feel like she is the one. Words of affirmation are important, especially when things are going good. Not even when things are going bad, tell them, but when things are going good, that's when it hit different. It hits different when you express those words of affirmation to your partner or to the person that you're trying to talk to or get with. They love to hear those things. They're gonna appreciate those things and cherish those things.
Right. And you'll be surprised how far words of affirmation can go. If you've ever heard a motivational speaker, or even maybe gone to church, or had a good friend that is trying to encourage you, they always tell you, give yourself daily affirmations. I am blessed. I am powerful, I am strong, I am beautiful. And hearing that from your spouse will go a long way, especially in the areas where sometimes ladies may feel self-conscious or they're working on their confidence to bring it up. I know I have gone up and down in regards to my weight after having my second child. And he's always saying, babe, you look beautiful. And it took a while for me to accept it, because I'm just like, oh gosh, I look in the mirror, I'm like, Lord, my stomach, like my stomach is out of control. Like, I've had 2 C-sections, so it's anybody who can relate know that it's kind of hard to get that area under control. But to him, it's just like, you're beautiful regardless. Like, this is a scar that you delivered my child into the world, so I appreciate that. So
it's not even just that, but I know, like, baby, I've been with girls that was bigger than you. So when I tell my wife she look good, I'm being honest, I'm being real. Like, I love your shape, I love your body, I love your booty. I love everything about you. I'm being as real and open as possible. And you have to be open. You have to be honest. A lot of things that we struggled on, well, on my end, I'll be honest, is I've had a problem with being truthful. I would tell little petty lies, like nothing like real serious, but it was petty lies that accumulated, and then one lie after another and one after another. It made her hard to trust me, which we'll get into that probably another episode as far as trust. But the communication factor with me always lying or telling little lies, that affected us. It was bad communication. It was bad responses. It was the wrong things to say in those moments, which go back to the first few years of our marriage. I'm trying to say all the right things to, make her feel good instead of being honest,
right?
About everything,
right.
And you just got to be truthful with yourself. It got to the point where we became open and we started doing things together that she never thought she would do, but we ended up doing it together, and I changed a lot of things within myself, especially how I communicated with my kids. In the beginning of our marriage, I was only going off of, a lot of how I was raised. So a lot of my growing up was rough. Like, not rough, but my parents were stern. They was tough on me, because I was the firstborn. It was different from my brother. Not saying he didn't get it, but it was different from older kids, and some people can relate. Some older siblings can relate, and it was different for me. So it's something that I had to adjust, as far as I can't continue to do what my parents did or talk to my kids the way my parents did. I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I do get that way and I have to catch myself, and then sometimes I have to apologize to my kids for how I approach them, because the anger that's coming towards them, especially because I have girls, that makes them fearful, and I don't want them to be fearful of the man that's supposed to love them and cater to them and protect them and nurture them. I don't want them to be fearful. I want you to understand that I am the authority figure, and where we stand as far as parent and child, but the way that I communicated was just wrong.
Right. So you also have to realize as well that when you are communicating and you have children, guess what? They see it. So however you communicate, they will think that this is the proper way to communicate. So you want to set a good example. I think it's healthy for children to see their parents disagree in a healthy way, to let them know that, we won't always see eye to eye on everything, but because we have a mutual respect for each other, that we know how to disagree and then come back and say, you know what, I may not agree with everything that you said or that what you did, but at the end of the day, we still love each other and we're still on the same page, and we're, gonna keep things moving forward to progress our family and our relationship. And then also the way that you communicate with your children is what they're gonna see and expect when it's time for them to date and get married, because what they see is what they emulate. Mm-hmm. So in our situation with girls, they are gonna understand that it's okay for daddy to get upset sometimes and not be on the same page as mom, but at the end of the day, you still can come back together and then, work things out. You can agree to disagree, which is what a lot of people do, agree to disagree.
And we just gonna be honest, yes, we telling you to effectively talk to your kids in a certain way, and we just gonna be real. Not every argument is perfect. Not every argument is gonna go the way that you expect it to go. And yes, we're gonna have different disagreements. Yes, we might cuss at each other. It might be some fuck yous, and then we still gonna be, oh sorry, I'm supposed to be working on cussing, I'm sorry. It's still gonna be some FUs, and it's just being real, it's gonna be cuss words being thrown around, and but we just being honest and real, with this podcast. We letting you know that you might have those arguments, but
no, you will.
But you will have those arguments, but doing it around the kids, like she said, they will see it. They will sometimes, probably when they grow up, it might be implemented, in their relationship. But communicating with your kids as far as how they should move in a relationship, that's something that we as younger parents, that's where I had a lack in, as far as my life, as far as communicating with a spouse a certain way. Because I'm not gonna lie, my parents argued too. They argued, they cussed at each other. Just being real, as marriages, me and you have argued and cussed at each other. So, how we communicate with our kids and how they should communicate with their spouses, we should really talk to our kids about that. We should talk to them how to approach a male or female in a certain way, especially, if you say something that may offended them, you got to be able to respond and fix that situation within y'all relationship.
Right. So I believe that you have to be taught communication. I don't think communication is inherited, or well, maybe it is, because if you see someone else doing it, then you can say, it's learned. It's a learned behavior. Mm-hmm. But you have to teach your children how to communicate. If you don't, they will go around and say, for instance, that doesn't bother me. And in actuality, it really does
bother them.
So if they don't learn it at home, then they'll get into relationship after relationship after relationship, and they'll eventually have to learn how to communicate. Now, it was a little different for me because I grew up with a single parent for the majority of my life. Later on, my mom did get married to my dad now, and I had a great example of what a marriage should look like, what communication and love should look like. But for the most part, I had to learn that. That was not something that I saw growing up. So our upbringings was different, especially when it came down to how as if when we went back into the beginning part of the episode, how the things that you say, how they come across. Mm-hmm. Now, I wasn't brought up, my father passed away when I was maybe 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. So I wasn't used to any type of man raising his voice at me. So when we got married and he raised his voice at me, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not used to this. Why are you raising your voice at me? And it took me a while to communicate that with him and say, hey, you know what?
What would be your response?
In the beginning, I would shut down because that was something that I wasn't used to. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, wait a minute. Is this normal? Is this not normal? Like, I don't understand. And then later on, I put up a barrier. And I'm just like, hold on, this is what you're not going to do. You're not going to yell at me during these arguments. And then later on, as we progress, and I'm just like, okay, this is something that I'm not comfortable with. Can you, lower your tone, talk to me in a better way? Or if you can't at the moment, go back, take some time, and then come back to me and we can talk about it after, we both calm down.
Yeah, and we're going to be real because, she would say things as far as communication. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
And how she was saying things to me would upset me to the core. And it would like if I hurt her feelings by something that I said that I may think like, oh, that ain't mine. Like, that ain't saying nothing. Like, that ain't nothing. And then she may think it's a big deal. Because I hurt her feelings, she would cut me deeper. She would hit me hard. She would
not intentionally.
It felt intentionally.
Well,
but
I mean,
I'm just like, because you was in the moment. It was in the moment.
Are unintentional, not knowing how far, and that goes back to the communication. Because if something that I say and I don't realize that it affects him in that way, I would continue to say until he came back and said, "Hey, can we not, talk to each other this way?"
But I wouldn't even communicate that. Right. I would just retaliate or get louder or get more upset and or rather cussing and storming off, because my feelings was hurt because of what she said. And I'd be like, dang, like, I ain't cut you that deep. You know what I mean? Why you cutting me that deep? And it was just bad communication for real. Like, it was on both of our parts, not expressing, effectively, not listening to each other effectively, and not knowing what to say and how to say it, just to get our points across.
Right.
And we've been through it. We've been through being away from each other and then still coming back and still working on communication.
Right. So this is the purpose of this is not for us to come out here and tell our business and things of that nature, because I believe we're both kind of private people. But at the end of the day, you're not I'm private. I can't speak for him. I'm private. But at the end of the day, we know for sure that couples, whether married or single, go through the same things that we've gone through. And it's not many people out there discussing what's going on behind closed doors.
Some people live a fairy tale life. And we understand the first few months or maybe even the first year is great. It's great sex, great communication, great love. Y'all do things, y'all go on trips. But then when y'all hit that hard, rocky spot and, when y'all hit that brick wall and y'all have no way of getting over the wall, getting over the hump, communication is the key to getting over that hump.
Right.
Working on everything else as far as, communicating with each other as far as sexual wise or past events or whatever, communication is key.
Right.
You got to have understanding within your relationship and understand where each other is coming from and understand the do's and the don'ts, of y'all marriage. And, and you could be, this is to help, get through your journey. If you still see yourself with that mate, with that person, he or she, you have to be able to endure the journey. You have to enjoy the journey. You have to learn from it. You have to grow from it. you know, that is key. You have to work on those things.
Right. And I think that's, he hit the nail on the head when he said you have to learn and grow from it. You shouldn't be having the same argument over and over and over and over again. That means you're not learning from what you've, talked about. So,
or somebody wasn't actively listening.
Right. Or didn't get it. Sometimes you just don't get it. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times for you to understand something.
Yeah.
But I feel as though you shouldn't have the same argument over and over and over and over again. You have to resolve it at some point in time, or just agree to disagree. Sometimes you can't resolve it. You just say, okay, well, I respect how you feel. You respect how I feel, and we move forward.
Let's leave it alone.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think I wish we had our families to go to. We had, siblings to talk to. But we didn't have something that was out publicly that we can refer to and say, who's been on this journey with me that's similar to me. I've just recently started to see the Love Hour, Miss Kev on Stage and Kev on Stage, where they talk about their journey in life. They've been married for a very long time. And I'm just like, well, this is a good example. Why not, us share our journey as well? Because even though they're out there and they're sharing their experiences, we also have a different aspect that we can also share as well, that someone may, learn from. And that's the whole purpose, is to learn from someone else's experience. So possibly you won't have to go through the same thing.
Yeah, and coming up in further episodes, we're gonna have different people coming up, different couples, coming up and talking about their differences and how they got through certain situations and stuff like that. But that's something that you stay tuned. Before we get out of here, we have a segment called I Have a Confession. And and with this I Have a Confession, we want everybody, all of our audience, all our friends and family, you can join in on this I Have a Confession. We're going to express our true confessions, but you can remain anonymous. I said it right this time.
Anonymous.
But you can remain forget it.
Anonymous.
You can remain that way. I will put the email down at the bottom, so y'all can see. And send it into the email. Don't give us your name. If you want to say your name, that's totally up to you, but you don't have to do that. You can do Mr. Sunshine, Mrs. Strawberry, whatever. You could just send in, your confession, and we'll read them out loud, and see how everybody go. Baby, you want to give your first?
Okay, so I have a confession that I've been crossed over. I think Sean Connery is one of the sexiest old white men that there is. He is a sexy old white man. And I get flack for it every time when I say that, or if I see him in a movie. He hasn't had anything out recently because, he's old, but I think he's handsome.
My God. Y'all hear this, Sean Connery. The Englishman. 007 Sean Connery. She like older Sean Connery, not the younger one. With the one with all the white hair.
He has old man swag. I think it's cute.
Oh my God. All right. Well, my confession is I like to pee sitting down. In the middle of the night, sometimes a man don't feel like standing. So I sit down and put my penis in the toilet and go pee. I got to. I don't feel like standing up to go pee. Y'all may judge me, whatever. I don't care. This is my confession. I like to pee sitting down. And sometimes, and it don't even have to be in the middle of the night. I can just be like, man, I got to pee. I don't feel like standing up. So I sit down, tuck it in there, and do what I need to do. So don't judge. Before we get out of here, baby, give your handle.
I don't have a handle.
You got a Facebook handle?
They're just my Facebook page. I don't have Instagram. I don't have Twitter. It's just Katrina Woodhouse at Facebook.
All right. Well, mine is Monteria Woodhouse on Facebook. My Instagram is Smokey_the_bear. And also follow us on How Did We Get _here, or how did we get here? How did we _get here? That's what it is. How did we _get here on Instagram? Follow the page. I'll put the link at the bottom. But follow, subscribe to our YouTube page. As soon as you go to the link on our Facebook page too, also How Did We Get Here on Facebook with a question mark on here at the end of here, podcast on Facebook. The link is on our Facebook page and our Instagram page. Go to our YouTube, subscribe, follow, share, comment, and we just want to thank everybody for watching our views. We had a large amount of views, more than I was expecting that we was gonna get. I thought we was gonna get a good amount, but not as many as we did. And we thank everybody for watching the first episode, and we got more to come.
Yes, more of our journey to help you.
All right, we out of here.
Bye-bye.